Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Believe in a power greater than what you are going through. When you don't know what to do, keep breathing.
This is Caregiver Dave, and we're doing a special recording for Tanya and Sharekia, who have their own show. And I'll just hand it off to them now because they're the hosts and I am the guest.
That's
Hello, my name
amazing,
is.
Dave.
Hello.
I was gonna say that you just did a show within a show.
A show within a show. And you can do commercials too with that. That's really cool. Promote yourself, promote your book, promote whatever you want to promote. So you interview authors, right?
We have a lot of them. We have interviews.
So we'll take a couple of breaks, and I'll show you my two book trailers, which will help promote my book. So what can I do for you, girls?
Thank you. Well, my name is Sharekia Dash, and we're here today to hear your story of how to survive as a caregiver.
How to survive. Well, I always thought that I did a good job surviving caregiving, but I've come to realize that surviving is not enough. You think of surviving, you think of that poster of the black cat who's all wet and she's holding on by her claws, and it says at the bottom, "Hang in there," and the cat's just going like this. And how many times do we feel like we're just hanging on? We're just surviving. We're just making it, Well, who wants to just survive, right? It's like there's three stages of financial prosperity, right? There's when you have not enough money, right? That sucks, right? And then you come to a point where you have just enough money. And that's pretty good because when you didn't have enough, it's nice to have just enough. But it's really nice to move to the next level and have more than enough. And so with caregiving, 30% of them die before their loved ones do. And that's because they get all stressed out, they get burned out, they don't put their oxygen mask on first. And so surviving is not good enough. The average caregiver gets 2 or 3 hours sleep every night. I can't survive on 2 or 3 hours. Can you?
No.
That would be a no, yes. And then they don't eat right. They eat stuff that they shouldn't eat because they're always on the go. They're not eating the proper amount of vegetables and fruits and protein and all that stuff. They might just be eating ding dongs all day long, and that's just not good. And so now they're diabetic and and they've got all sorts of problems.
Did you eat ding dong?
No, this is healthy beef jerky because it's protein. I just lost 20 pounds doing keto, if you know what that is. You can eat anything you want. Just stay away from breads, rice, the starches, the pastas. And that's hard for me because I love bread. I can consume 500 grams of breads and pizza and just, so the only thing that caused me to realize that I could actually possibly do it is that you can eat everything else in no matter what quantities. He says, don't worry about calories for now. Just so you like bacon, you can eat all the bacon you want. Wow, really? You like hamburger? You like chicken? So I tried it, and I'm doing it. I haven't had bread, and I can't remember when. I haven't had pizza, and I can't remember when. And, I like pizza. Somebody got me this greeting card one time. It says, because they knew I like pizza, it says, pizza is like sex. When it's good, it's really good, and when it's bad, it's still good. So I somehow have been able to give up pizza and bread, and I lost 20 pounds, and I look good. I just bought a new tank top here in Hawaii, and it's medium. And it doesn't look like I'm fat. So I'm happy about that. Of course, I did try on the small, but that just it was clinging to me too much. So I guess I still got a way to go. I don't think I want to lose any more weight. Otherwise, your face starts looking like AIDS or something. But getting back to me, my beautiful wife, she's back there in bed. Say hi, honey. You see her over there? Say
Hi.
hello. Wave your hand.
Hi.
We're in a hotel room at the Outrigger Reef in Hawaii. And 23 years ago, this beautiful woman, I married. Well, let me start at the beginning, right? Because you want a story.
Yes.
So, 45 years ago, I was just a child. I was 20, and I met this girl who was 30, and she was divorced a couple of years, came out of an abusive marriage, had a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old girl. And I was just looking for bodies to go sailing because I had a sailboat, and I was you can't go sailing without a crew. So um, she was at a friend's house. I was over asking my friend over, and she was eavesdropping. She says, "Well, I want to go sailing too." And I looked up. And I said, "Do I know you?" She says, "Yeah, I'm John's wife or ex-wife." Because John was the one I went to sailing with a lot, and one time he brought his wife, and he looked a little familiar. And I says, "Oh, well, I'm sorry that you're divorced." She goes, "Don't be. He was a real jerk." And so she says, "Well, can I go?" And I says, "Well, did you get sick last time?" She goes, "No." I says, "Okay, you can go." And so I says, "Great, another body checked off my list." And then the next day she calls me up. I don't know where she got my number from. She said, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for inviting me sailing, and in appreciation, I want to invite you over to my house for dinner." Thinking, what? I'm 20, she's 30. In the 70s, we didn't trust anybody over 30. She was just, an older woman. And I said, well, it was a free meal, we're starving student. I says, okay. She goes, yeah, you'll like it. I'm a gourmet cook. I didn't know what gourmet was, but I didn't say that. So I show up at her door, I ring the doorbell, and she opens the door, and all of a sudden I get hit with this woof of aromas. Um, First, the smelled was incense. It was the 70s, and it was a familiar aroma. And then the next thing I smelled was her perfume. Now I know it was Giorgio, but it smelled really good. And then the third thing that I smelled was this amazing aroma coming from the kitchen. And I'm Middle Eastern. My parents only cooked Syrian food. Very rarely did we have American food. My father liked his meat well done, so he just, told her to burn a steak on the frying pan, and when it was black and charred, it was done right. So I thought the only food in the world was Syrian food and burnt meat, and so my palate was very undeveloped, but it smelled really good. And then I noticed in the background, all the lights were down low and candles were flickering everywhere. And then I heard in the background, unforgettable, that's what
No.
you are. And then everything just froze. And I says, oh my God, I'm on a date. And then I freaked out. I says, oh my God, do I want to be on a date with this older woman? And so I checked her out, top to bottom. She was wearing this Hawaii muumuu thing, and she looked pretty good for a 30-year-old woman. And so I said, I can do this. And reality came back. That all happened in a split second. And she says, oh, you're going to love the evening. It's an 8-course meal, and the theme is everything is stuffed. And we had stuffed mushrooms with caviar and stuffed Cornish game hens and stuffed dessert. And by the end of the evening, I was stuffed. Nevertheless, it was a date, as unexpected as it was. And the next time we met was on the boat, and we just did the getting to know you dance for 8 hours. It was an 8-hour sail to Catalina. We leave at midnight. We were up all night. And by the time we get there, we're fooling around on the island, and coming back, we hit a storm, and she was barfing over the side. The whole crew was barfing over the side, and I said, oh, my God, she's never going to want to go out with me again. Here she's on a boat thinking she's going to die. But she did go out with me again, and again, and again, and about a year and 3 months later, we got married. So we had a fairy tale storybook romance, courtship, and marriage. We never argued. We never yelled at each other. We never disagreed. And everybody said, are you crazy? You're marrying a woman 30 years or 10 years older than you, and you're still in your third year of college, and you don't even have a job, and she's got a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old and a crazy ex-husband who's still stalking her and slashing the tires of anyone she goes out with. And he didn't bother me because I knew him. He kind of avoided me. And I says, yeah, but I think I'm in love, and I don't want to let go of my soulmate and kick myself in the butt the rest of my life. And so that's how it started. But then 23 years ago, she was complaining about this headache. Right around the time we're supposed to be having a empty nest syndrome, right? Where the kids are all grown up now, and we got the house free, and we can do whatever we want. We can travel. Don't have to worry about leaving kids at home to destroy the house. She complains about this headache she's had 3 days. And on the fourth day, she was going to go see a doctor, but instead, the ambulance had to come. And it was too late. The woman I loved had suffered a massive stroke. It left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on one side. And our world turned upside down, and nothing would ever be the same again. And those next 2 years were like a living hell for both of us. She was angry and bitter most of the time. And at one point, I just didn't think I could take it. I wrote her this letter and said, Charlene, why are you so mean to me? I can't even take care of you. It's so hard, 24/7, not getting any crumbs of appreciation or love in return. And I just don't think I can be with you anymore. And I'll take care of you financially, but I just can't be with you. And I read the letter over and over again, and I wanted to give it to her, but I says, how can I give this to the woman I love, to my soulmate, to the mother of my children? And so I filed it away. And I went on in my loneliness and depression until I found a business card in my pocket. I didn't even know where it came from. Somebody must have given it to me. It invited me to a caregiver support group. I didn't even know what a caregiver was, let alone a support group. But I figured if they gave it to me, maybe they thought I needed it, so I went. And everything changed for me. I met people there just like me, burned out caregivers. And I learned if I didn't put my oxygen mask on first, I couldn't take care of Charlene. So I just started taking care of me first, being selfish, that I could take care of her. And slowly but surely, she started to see a change in me, that I wasn't reacting to her anger, because anger was her best and favorite emotion in the grief process, and I was the only one to take it out on. And so she started becoming her old self again, slowly, very slowly, and then our love started to get rekindled slowly. And then I realized that there are other caregivers out there who are suffering and going through so much pain, and I didn't want them to give up like I almost gave up. So I became Dave the Caregiver's Caregiver. It was a popular syndicated radio show, heard in 150 countries and all 50 states. And I'm writing my fourth book now. I mean, here's the third one about caregiving. And I got the first one over there, One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, talking about our memoirs, how we survived without killing each other. And now my fourth book is about Dave's hammock wisdom, 99 lessons learned living life, because every time I lay on my hammock, God gives me this wisdom, and it'd be selfish for me to just keep it to myself, so I'm sharing it with the world. I used to counsel my teenage friends when they were younger, how can I get this girl to like me? And I said, here's all you got to do is this and this and this. And when they listened to me, they got the girl, and when they didn't, they didn't. And so that's the story. And I've been on 31 TV shows, morning shows, network all across the country. I've spoken at Harvard and NASDAQ and Carnegie Hall. I've shared the stage with Suzanne Summers and Martha Stewart and Ice-T and Coco. You know them.
Yes.
So here we are, and here's my story. And now I'm just helping caregivers stay alive, because 30% of them die before their loved ones do, and the rest of them get sicker and in the hospital. And need a caregiver of their own. And so now it's your turn.
Wow.
That's my story.
Wow, Dave. And both of us have been caregivers. I know Sharekia took care of her mother.
For 3 years.
3 years. Wow, good for you. Did it cause you to burn out at one point? What?
Well, with my mother, I had to get to the point where I had to be just as mean as she was at the time, because her thing was she was just mean and very ornery, and so I had to tell her, you just don't get to make me feel bad about taking care of you. You don't get that. And I had to just sometimes treat her like that, because her thing was, I don't want nobody to do nothing for me. I'm gonna do it myself. But then she makes a big mess, so.
Just like 2-year-olds. Do it myself.
Yeah. I'm
What was
tired.
her
Or
what was her illness and or disability?
she had ovarian cancer, and with the process of having ovarian cancer, she ended up getting a treatment that didn't agree. It ended up making her cancer more aggressive. So it ended up actually messing with brain cells and different other things. So she was
Which
almost
is just
starting
like
over from the beginning.
dementia. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's too bad. Yeah, so you did 3 years of hell. Well, it wasn't all hell, right? Just the last part.
No. Matter of fact, I loved her so much. Even the hell, I loved that too. But the thing was, she was so young. My mom was only 42 at the time.
That's very young. Charlene was 52 when she had a stroke, which is still young, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now
She
she's
was so
75
young.
and she still looks great. I forgot to mention that she still cannot talk and she still cannot walk, but she can communicate non-verbally through Pictionary and charades. You know, two games I hate, by the way, but I'm learning to love. And she has this power chair that goes faster than me. She just makes us all look like whiners and complainers, a cross between Martha Stewart and Wonder Woman. And I've got arthritis in my feet. I just had to get some injections in my feet while I'm here in Hawaii. We got a great doctor here, but I got to stay off my feet for 3 days so that the stuff can take effect. And so kind of both trapped in bed for the next 3 days, I guess. But it's a nice place to be trapped in bed with the ocean right out our door. Can you see that?
Yes.
Nice.
I heard the waves earlier.
I know they were so loud I couldn't hear you. I
I heard the
had to come
waves earlier. I
inside.
was like, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I know
and sorry.
we got stuck. I know that I have done the caregiver thing. The first time I had to be a caregiver, I was 11 years old. It was my grandmother.
Wow.
And they taught me how to change bedpans and to give injections, and I was the only one there with her at night. And then I went from that to helping my best friend, and then I went from that to my mother-in-law, and then finally my husband. So I have been a
Wow.
caregiver off and on, over and over and over again since I was 11 years old.
Yeah, there's a lot of kids from age 8 to 18 who are unpaid family caregivers. Many of them don't get the labor board breaks, like you get at work and the 30-minute lunch hour, etc. And many of them miss school because there's no one else to watch grandma. And it's sad. It's really sad. So what scars do you have from caregiving for doing it so long?
I think I'm just now learning how to not do things for people, even if it's detrimental to me, because I've been a caregiver all my life. And so this last one had, because it was so, I mean, my husband and I were together for 15 years. And his illness, he started to be very self destructive. And because he was being very self destructive, I ended up having to walk away. And then he got put in hospice, and I had to come back because I wasn't going anywhere. And it was just be there for him every day. If I don't start to take care of myself. And that was when I started keto, was in the middle of his illness.
Oh, so it's worked for you.
It worked, and I'm doing it again because I kind of, when he passed away, I started eating my feelings, and I ate 30 pounds. So it's been a year. It'll be March. And so I got to get rid of the stuff that I ate back that I lost the first time. So I'm going back into my keto journey again because I screwed it up being depressed. So,
Emotional overeater.
yes, yes. But this is amazing though, because I feel like this is a shared, this is more of a conversation than an, because we all share similar experiences and can kind of help each other, if that makes any sense. Because there's so many
Uh-huh.
caregivers there that don't have anybody to talk to. And it's, I know for me as a kid, when I did it the first time, I didn't understand what was going on. I was a baby. And so to look back at it now, and to realize, wow, I've been doing this all my life, and all my relationships were based around caregiving. I would do for them, and they would do for me. And so that's just now it has to change because I won't survive doing it again. Not like that.
No, let's talk about the three things, the three biggest problems that caregivers make, the three biggest mistakes, I should say. And I keep muting Sharika because she's got a lot of background noise that affects your speaking. So I see she mutes herself too, and when she unmutes herself, I mute herself. So just want to keep the background noise down because it affects the quality. So the biggest mistake caregivers make, as I've already mentioned, is they don't know how to put their needs first. You know, the airlines tell you put your oxygen mask on first, but caregivers, they may know that on an intellectual level, but somehow they just get sucked into it, you know. A good example is, let's say your neighbor is elderly, and every day you watch him go out there and struggle to, you know, shuffle and pick over and bend over and pick up his newspaper and bring it in. So you figure, well, you know what, I'm going to be a nice guy. I'm going to go over there and bring his paper in for him. Next thing you know, while you're doing that, you notice he's reaching for something on the top shelf. You say, oh, let me help you get that, you know. Next thing you know, you're making him breakfast. Next thing you know, you're taking him to his doctor appointments. Next thing you know, you're this guy's caregiver, and you don't, how did this happen? And, you know, you just kind of get sucked into it. You don't realize what's happening. And a lot of people, they just don't know how to say no, and that's why the title of my book is Reclaim Your Caregiver Sanity by Learning When to Say Yes and When to Say No, because boundaries, right? Everybody needs boundaries, not just caregivers. I have an exercise to say just look in the mirror and say no to yourself in the mirror so you can see what it looks like. 100 different ways to say no. Now, my wife is very good. She doesn't have a very big vocabulary, but yes and no are in her vocabulary, and she can say no about 100 different ways. She'll say no, 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 and so on. Right, honey? And she likes to say no. And so that will give you practice, because once you're used to saying no in the mirror, when somebody says, hey, Tanya, can you help me out? And he says, gee, I love you. I love to, but, you know, I just can't. I'm so sorry. And maybe Tanya would never say that in her life. She always says, sure, what do you want? You know, because you're always
You know
saying
what?
yes.
That used to be me. Me and Sharika just had this conversation about a situation. And I told her, I said, look, it used to be that whatever my friends wanted, it didn't matter
Yeah.
if it benefited or not. It was always yes. I'm going to figure it out. And then you become this person that can't keep commitments because you've overcommitted to like 100 people, and you can't do all
You
100 of
become a
those things.
flake.
So then you
Yeah,
become classified as a flake when the reality of it is your heart's just too big. So I'm
that's
learning
right.
to say no. It's hard.
Good
I've
for you.
cried all night once because I couldn't figure out. I was like, I got to no. And okay, God, help me. I literally had to pray in tears. And I sent it to, I said, listen, baby, that's not what God is telling me to do. I can't do it. And I had to say no. And it hurt to say no, but I
Yeah.
had to for my own
But you're a
sanity.
people pleaser, and you get your fulfillment and your love by pleasing people. But you can't do that because people can spot an easy mark, as they say, you know, and you become an easy mark. Oh, just ask Tanya; she'll do it. Oh yeah, Tanya never says no, and pretty soon you've got a reputation that Tanya's my go-to girl. You know, she can get anything I want whenever I want it, and if she can't get it, she'll find it somewhere. You know, and that's just no good. And so you had to get over the fact that it's okay if people don't like me, and they won't necessarily not like you just because you say no, but you have the fear that saying no means, oh, now they're not going to like me, and now I'm not going to have any friends, now I'm going to be lonely, or you know, wherever that takes you in your mind. So the one thing that you need to be is a friend to yourself, because the Bible says, love others the way you love yourself. And if you don't love yourself, how are you going to love
Hey,
others, you know?
Dave is preaching. Dave is preaching. I like did that in, Dave. Oh
Yeah.
man, that was smooth, Dave. I love that. That was smooth. That was smooth.
And
But you're not wrong.
and
If I don't love you, you can't love anybody else.
that's right. That's right. And we've all met, I mean, if you're a woman, you've all met men who claim that they love you, but you know, dude, you don't love me. You don't even love yourself. You don't know what love is, right? Isn't that a common conversation with that a woman has with a man who's just using her, and why buy the cow when the milk's free and all that stuff. And he thinks he's in love and he's making promises, and these girls just want to hear this, and they're just easy marks. And that's just one aspect of romance, but there are so many other aspects, especially as we get older. It's really sad, but it's interesting how many times after a couple gets a divorce and one of the divorced couple has a need, like a surgery or something, there are so many ex-spouses taking care of their ex-spouse as a caregiver, and they're not even married anymore. And I'll ask them, well, why? Oh, I still love him. I just can't live with him, that kind of stuff. But it's a very interesting thing. The next biggest mistake the caregivers make is they don't know how to ask for help. Everyone has one of these. It's called a cell phone. You turn it on, you punch in your number, and you speak. Hello, Mom. I need help. Grandma's driving me crazy. Call your brother, call your sister, call your wife's ex-husband, call anybody, but get over that silly notion. If you can't do it all by yourself, you're a failure as a caregiver, because that attitude will kill you. I mean, I'm the caregiver's caregiver, and I was using a skill saw one time, and I know how to use skill saws. I know how to be careful. I know how to use power tools. And I was cutting this long piece of molding, and somebody really needed to hold the other end. And I was around other people, but I just didn't want to ask for help. I didn't want to be indebted to anybody. What do we say when we don't ask for help? Oh, they probably are too busy, or whatever the reason is, you don't ask for help. Caregivers can't do this by themselves. They do need help, and you're not a failure if you can't do it. So I cut my finger down to the bone because I didn't ask for help. And then I went to the ER, and they sewed it up, and then I thought I learned my lesson. A month later, I was doing something at my business, and the wind hit me in the head, 3 stitches in the head. He comes back and said, well, what did you do now? I said, I don't know. I thought I learned my lesson. I needed help. I didn't ask for help. And the third problem that caregivers have, don't worry, it's being recorded, is the guilt.
Okay.
You'll be able to hear this afterwards. And, we all remember that caregiver who took care of his elderly father in the junk business, that show that was on. It was called Sanford and Son, right? Fred was notorious into guilting Lamont into doing all sorts of cockamamie things that had no business. Lamont had, wasn't in Lamont's best interest. And Fred did it this way. Oh, it's the big one. No, son, really, it's the big one. Elizabeth, I'm coming to meet you, honey. It's the big one. And Lamont would fall for that con every single time. And it was like, caregivers are the same way, it's like being handcuffed to your loved one for the rest of your life in caregiver prison with solitary confinement, no possibility of parole. And that kind of guilt will kill you. So I came up with a formula. It's a CARE acronym, C-A-R-E. C, communicate with your friends, and don't isolate yourself. Caregivers need to have their friends with them. They have to, keep doing the things they did before when they were normal. They were, going to the movies, go get your nails done, go to Starbucks, go whatever, to the gym. A, ask for help and be specific. Hey, you going to the grocery store tomorrow? Can you pick me up some lettuce? I'm out. C-A-R. R is rest. Caregivers need 8 hours rest every single night, but the average caregiver only gets 2 or 3. I can't survive on 2 or 3. And E stands for eat. Eat healthy, nutritious food. Don't eat junk food. Junk food's got sugar, chemicals, processed ingredients, and all that stuff will kill you. So that's basically my story. I told you who I am and what I've done, and what the 3 biggest mistakes caregivers are making, and some tips to do it, So I think that's all I got to say. What do you guys think?
We have 5 questions that we usually ask everybody that comes to the show.
All right. What
So
are
we're
what
going
are the
to ask
5
you these 5
questions?
Okay, if you was to have to sit down with someone who was in the same situation, what advice would you give that person?
Well, I think I already answered that with the CARE formula. I just do the C, communicate with your friends. Don't isolate yourself. Ask for help and be specific. rest, get 8 hours rest every single night, and eat healthy, nutritious food. Don't eat junk food. Next
Okay.
question.
Okay. Me personally, I have a sister-in-law who tends to try to care for everybody, but she's caregiver for a mother. And it
That's
all
a big
seems
enough
to try
job
to,
right there.
yeah, I'm trying to encourage this lady that, okay, you're gonna pick one thing. You're gonna either take care of your mother or take care of everybody. I need you to pick one. So my thing is, if you knew somebody that was just all over the place, what advice would you give that person?
Well, I would tell her that if you had a child, would you want them to be going through what you're going through? And of course, the answer, no, no, I don't want to be a burden to my children. And you know what? Her mother doesn't want to be a burden to her child either. And so she just has to force herself to say, I'm not going to sacrifice my life for my mother's life. Our lives are both equally important. And my mother would not want me to sacrifice my life because a mother would throw her body in front of a locomotive to save her child's life, right? And so once she
Yeah.
gets that perspective, then she'll make some wiser decisions.
It's funny you say that though, Dave, because it seems like that would be true of some parents, but not all. There are some parents that would not make those type of sacrifices for their kids. It's
Well,
rare, but you see it
those
more
are
often
bad.
today.
Those are bad parents, and not all
Right,
parents are good. That's why we're all screwed up
right.
because some of our parents screwed us up, and we have to get over that, just drop the baggage, and not everybody is perfect. There's a famous evangelist, Joyce Meyer. You probably know who she is, and she talks
Mm-hmm.
about how her father sexually abused her from the age of 14 or whatever it was, and it totally messed this woman up. And yet, look at what God has done with this woman, just working on her baby steps. She was loud, she was arrogant, she was obnoxious, and she's leading a Bible study, smoking so many cigarettes that they had to open the door, let out the smoke. And God just is a gentleman. He wants you to come to Him just the way you are, and
Mm-hmm.
not try to clean up your act first, and He'll fix it all if you give Him time and if you're cooperative and you're obedient.
Right, right. And I think we all have similar stories. And I think
Yeah.
my trail of tears as a caregiver was because of rejection and abandonment from my mother, was because of all of those. So I'm trying to, because as a child, you think to yourself, if your mother doesn't want you, then what's wrong with you? So
Right.
in order to fix that for everybody else, I have to make, and so you have to make everybody like me
Yeah.
because, well, my mom didn't want me. So I must be something wrong with me. So then I have to fix it for everyone. And that was the start of it. It started from a baby, from a child. And so it
That's
just
why
kept
you're the
going and
people
going and
pleaser.
going
Yep.
and going.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It sounds
And
like
let's
you're
say
just
I was
dealing with
the
it
people
now.
pleaser. I was the people pleaser because
It was the people. Past
I'll be
tense.
47 on Sunday. I will be 47 on Sunday, baby. I need you to
You look
understand
pretty good for
that if
47,
if
huh?
it does not fit, thank you. If it doesn't fit into God's plan, I'm not doing it, and that's just my bottom line. And it took a long
Whoa.
time to get there, but I'm there now.
Praise
If
God.
it if God if that's not what God is telling me, you can miss me with that one. I'm not doing it. The answer is
Yeah.
no.
I know that.
And you can use that God excuse for when you need to say no. Say, I'm sorry, God, no, really. God is not allowing me to do this. I'm sorry. You'll have to ask Him to send somebody else to help you because I can't do it. Now, a good friend of mine, my book coach, Carmen Berry, New York Times bestselling author, she wrote her first caregiving book, and you know what the title was? When helping
What?
when helping others hurts me. And that's so true. God
Mm-hmm.
doesn't want us to help others if it's going to hurt us.
Mm-hmm.
And a
Right.
lot of people have a problem with that because they've got this formula, Jesus first, others second, and you last. Well, really? Like I said
Now, and
before,
you know what?
how are
That's
you
a
going to help
crop because
others
my
if you aren't even helping yourself? Be your own best friend. You want a friend,
right.
be a friend, but start with you. Take yourself to the movies all by yourself. Oh no, I'll never go to movies. Why not? Go to movies by yourself. Some people think it's a stigma to go to the movie by themselves. But I like myself. I've been to the movies many times by myself.
My pastor says there's a such thing as unsanctified mercy. When God didn't tell you to help somebody, but you're helping them because of how you feel and not because sometimes God wants people to fall on their face so that
Yeah.
he can
Mm-hmm.
pick
Oh,
them up instead of us doing it.
yeah, we rescue people from the consequences of their bad actions, and they never learn
Yes,
that when you touch the stove, you're going to burn yourself because you're always burning yourself
yes,
instead of them. So, of course, they're going to keep touching the stove. Of course, they're going
right,
to not give up drugs.
right.
You can't want them to give up drugs more than they want to give up drugs. And so you're always coming to their rescue. You help them stay out of jail. You bail them out when they do go to jail. And they can't spend a month in jail to learn, wow, I better not do this again. No, because Tanya bailed him out again. Thank you, Tanya. And now he's back in jail again. That's called
Yeah,
codependency.
and I
You're
did
right.
that too.
Tough
And I
love.
did that too. I did that too. And it was hard because and that's when I walked away from my husband, that was the reason why. Because
Oh, it took you
not only
40
do you
took
have
you
prostate
47 years
cancer,
took you 47 years to figure that out. Wow.
47 years and 2 marriages. Yep, yep. And when he finally was like, I figured it out. Well, baby, now you're dying. Now it's too late. Now the cancer, now between the drugs and the cancer have eaten you alive. And so now all I can do now for you is take care of you and be here and hold your hand because it's too late. And so
So
that was the part that he could never figure out. And I was enabling him and he was doing what he was doing. So I understand. I get it. Took a minute, but I get it.
did he get sick after you divorced him or no?
No, and we didn't get a divorce. He got sick like uh, he got sick in 2015. He passed away last year.
All right, what's your
So
next
he
question?
was sick. Say it again.
I think
Next
she asked me
question
three
is
questions. Question number 4, right?
Yeah.
next question is how would we send our guests to find any of your caregivers books, shows, or any instructions on self-help for caregivers?
Repeat that again, the first part of it.
How would we send our guests to find any of your shows, books, or any
Okay.
self-help information you have on caregiving?
Just go to caregiverdave.com. And for everyone that goes there, I have 3 free gifts for them. I got a digital copy of my first book, One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships. That looks backwards on my thing. So that is the story of our lives and how we survived. And today, thrive. And then the second gift that you get is this quiz. Are you a candidate for burnout? Because some people don't know that they're a candidate for burnout. Well, here's a clue. If you think you might be, then you probably are. But this will help you decide if you really are 100%, and it will give you recommendations of what you can do to bring your score up. And then the third gift is an audio soundtrack to help you sleep at night so that you're not just sleeping 1 or 2 hours. It helps you get to sleep and it helps you stay asleep. And it's a membership website for a small nominal fee, $97 actually, for the rest of your life. It's a one-time fee. You get tons and tons and tons and years and years and years of resources. It's an online caregiver support group, part of our Facebook page. I've got 45,000 members. And you're just not alone anymore. And there are videos, there are blogs, there are articles, there are group chats. You get a free hour of coaching from me just by becoming a member. And, I get $300 an hour for coaching. And for $97 for the rest of your life, you get an hour of it. So the value is just ridiculous. And so that's where they can go, caregiverdave.com. It's your one-stop place to get the support you need.
Wow.
All the books are on Amazon
All
and Barnes
right.
& Noble as well.
And our fifth and final question. Okay,
Yes.
our fifth and final. I think something is cutting out. But our fifth and final question is, if we have someone who is a caregiver that feel that they just can't do it no more, and they're at the point where they feel they just want to give up, what would be your advice? And is it okay to feel that you can't do it no more?
It is okay. It's a hard job, and it's a really impossible job. And I felt all of that. I thought that I couldn't do it anymore. But there are things you can do. You can get away. I had my in-laws come and watch my wife, and I just hopped on a plane and went to see some relatives and cousins that I hadn't seen for decades. And when I came back, I felt rejuvenated. I had a new lease on life. I was able to just keep going. You know, when your phone starts flashing 2%, danger, Will Robinson. You know, you better do something, or this thing's going dead. Or if you forget to put gas in your car and the light's flashing, you know, reserve, you're going to get stuck on the freeway or God knows where, maybe in South Central Compton, and you know, someplace you don't want to be. And that's how it is with caregiving. If you're to the point where all you can say is yelling at your loved one and you know, maybe even hitting them, you know, because elder abuse happens sometimes. Child abuse happens sometimes because you get so frustrated with this kid. You need a timeout. And so, yes, you definitely need to remove yourself from the situation. Call somebody to come and take over while you go take a breather or a timeout, or go get a massage, or just get your hair done, or get your nails done, or go to Starbucks, or just literally go away for the weekend, because you're no good like that. That person
Yes.
cannot be a caregiver. And maybe you shouldn't be a caregiver. Maybe it's time to put your loved one in a facility, a good one, or maybe it's time to find a sibling who needs to step up, you know, or step up with money or their time, and the money will help them. Maybe you need to find out if your loved one qualifies for government assistance, you know, from Social Security or the VA. Even a spouse of a VA veteran is entitled to a lot of benefits, you know, in assisted living or nursing home. So there's just a lot of stones that need to be unturned, but don't feel bad, don't feel guilty, because you're doing your best. And without God's help, nobody can do it, because I sure couldn't. So if you haven't asked for his help, try that too.
We thank you so much. That has been very helpful, because me being in this situation and me looking at my sister-in-law, mine's only lasted for 3 years. My sister has been doing this for numerous of years, and she's also have her health issues, and a lot of times she has to put a lot of her stuff on the back burner, and then everybody else is her problem as well. And see, my thing is, I don't want to stop my life to help you help everybody else. If you was just caregiving and you needed help with that, I would be fine. But I can't stop my life just because you want to help everybody else. So maybe she'll listen to it and realize that we do want to help you, but your other problems is just not our problem.
Yeah, well, even listening to this podcast should help, you know.
Mhm.
So I thank you for having me on the show.
All right, we
And
thank
I
you as
thank you
well.
for having us on your show within a show, because this is a show within a show.
No problem. Thank you very much. And I will play the outro to my show. Actually, I said I was going to do a little commercial on my book. So here's the
Yes.
free book offer that I said you will get if you go to caregiverdave.com and click the Learn More button. So this is the book, the free book that you're going to get. One Arm, One Leg, 100 Words, Overcoming Unbelievable Hardships is about Charlene, a stroke survivor. Back in 1996, Charlene was a healthy, normal, very active 52-year-old woman whose amazing talents resembled that of both a Martha Stewart and a Wonder Woman. But all that changed when she suffered a massive stroke that left her severely speech impaired and paralyzed on the right side. Who am I? My name is David. I've had the privilege of being Charlene's husband since 1975. We had a wonderful fairy tale storybook-like courtship that culminated in our marriage a year later. Charlene had just come out of a marriage where after 10 years, she received 2 black eyes and a broken nose by her former husband when he came home high on speed. Charlene believed in no second chances of any kind for abuse, so she left. Finding herself all alone in the world with her 5 and 10-year-old daughters, Cynthia Lorraine and Deborah Lynn, she started raising them by herself for the next 2 years. Then fate brought us all together. After falling in love with Charlene, Cindy, and Debbie, our love then produced Rebecca Elizabeth. We had a wonderful, normal life for the next 20 years. But today, things are very different for everyone. How about the reaction of 9-time Grammy and Dove Award recipient, the godfather of contemporary gospel Christian music, Andre Crouch? Charlene just won't let the promises of God go, and she has not let her circumstances get in the way of her faith. She's not just a survivor, she's more than a conqueror, as the Bible states. You'll be encouraged by her testimony, regardless of what you're going through. Available everywhere. I forgot about Andre Crouch being in there. You probably know who he is.
I know quite well who. I grew up with Andre Crouch. In that time, his church was up the street from my family's church. I know exactly who he is.
Oh, really? Yeah, on Vaughn Street.
Yeah.
I went to that church for several years. We were good friends.
Did you?
I missed him so much. It's been 5 years. It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
And his twin sisters.
He was one of the generals in ministry.
Yes, he was. He used to tell me that Carmen, the musician, had these hundreds and thousands of salvations in his. He would fill up stadiums, and he says, Carmen got saved at an Andre Crouch concert, so I get credit for all those souls too. It's kind of like network marketing. Yeah.
I didn't know that. Right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that Carmen was affiliated with Andre. I did not know that.
He's not affiliated. He just happened to be in an Andre Crouch concert when he got saved. That's how he got saved.
Wow. That's awesome.
So Andre's thinking, wow, if Carmen got saved through my ministry and he's saving all these souls, I must somehow get credit for all those souls too. And he would, joke around.
Right.
But it's an interesting concept.
Well, Jesus was the first network marketer. So
that's right. All right, girls.
He told 12 people, and they told everybody else.
Did a good job.
Thank you so much, Dave. That's amazing.
Hope you like the new platform, and check it out, and I think it'll work for you.
Thank you. Oh, my gosh. Okay. You're amazing, Dave.
Sometimes it feels like the sun will never rise, like the birds will never sing again. Keep breathing, take it in and let it out. Keep